Hello there, I'm Steve from Mac84, and who doesn't enjoy some TV? One of my favorite things is to sit back, watch a movie or a TV series, and just lose myself in the immersion and the storytelling. And it really stinks when, well, it just breaks down on you. So today, we're going to try and fix this. This is a Vizio television set from about 2010 or 2011 or something like that, and it's been sitting in my aunt's kitchen for quite a long time. And unfortunately, suddenly, it just stopped working. And I unplugged it for a while and plugged it back in and it sprang to life again. And I thought, well, that's fixed, huh? Because sometimes things are a little too smart for their own good. But unfortunately, the problem occurred again. This was a bit perplexing because clearly the set was getting power as the Vizio logo was lit up here. But pushing any of these buttons here doesn't turn the set on and it just acts like it's dead. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm the type of person that doesn't like to toss things out because I think, well, maybe I could fix that or I could use parts from it. And I have fixed a lot of things in the past, even if some have taken me a few more years than I would have liked. However, I was curious enough to take this home and see if I could fix this for my aunt. Now, a bit of a spoiler here, I fixed this television set already. And thankfully, it was pretty simple, but I want to show you exactly what was going on and what clued me into what needed fixing inside of this TV. Getting access to the internals of this TV wasn't too difficult. Since this unit was mounted to the wall, I had no stand to remove and less screws to worry about. There are 4 screws, each in a corner, plus 4 more screws in the center and 1 on the side. But you'll only need to worry about the corner and center screws to remove the back. Now once those screws are removed, there are some plastic clips, but I'm just using my fingernail here. You could use a guitar pick or something like that. You probably don't want to use a screwdriver because this is soft plastic, but if you really don't care how it looks, you can take the cover off quite easily. Alright, so here's what's inside of the TV. Now it should go without saying that you should be very careful when servicing any electronics, especially those with a beefy power supply or an inverter that has big capacitors on it. Those capacitors can still store electricity even after the device is off, so you always want to be very careful. You never want to touch the top of any capacitors, and you want to follow all safety precautions when servicing electronics such as TVs or computers. Now when I first opened this TV, I didn't see anything particularly wrong. I didn't see any burned or charred areas, which would tell me something overheated or something shorted out. I didn't see anything that looked like it was unplugged or anything that was loose, but I was looking closely at the components on the board to see if everything looked like it was normal. And I saw 2 things that stood out to me. These 2 components here and here were 2 capacitors that sadly have failed. These were domed at the top, which is a sign that the capacitor has failed, and even one of them had some crusty residue on the top, evident that the capacitor was leaking from the top as well. I don't think that these capacitors are related to the whole capacitor plague thing. For those of you who don't know, that's an issue where someone attempted to steal a capacitor formula from a rival company and apparently produced a whole bunch of capacitors using the wrong formula. And because it was incorrect, those capacitors tended to fail and fail at alarming rates. I think this device was manufactured after all of that, so I think these capacitors might have just died of old age. After all, this TV is nearly 15 years old and it gets some pretty steady usage. When some folks open electronics and clearly see a bad capacitor, they may think, oh my goodness, I have to replace all of these capacitors. Well, that's not necessarily true, and it does vary from device to device and the year it was produced and so on, and if it's on a power supply or something like that. Generally speaking, I only replace capacitors that I know have an issue. I've done tons of recapping of older computers and electronics, and sometimes I replace capacitors that are maybe 30 or 40 years old, and then if I test them afterwards with a component tester, I find that they are still within their tolerances and values from the factory. Those capacitors could have had more life left in them, however, in some projects, it's better to just replace all of them. In this case, there are so many on the logic board and the power supply here, and all of them look like they're in generally good shape. However, this is something I will keep an eye on, and if the television set repeats any of the symptoms, like not powering on or acting strange, I will open it up again to see if anything else has failed. But for today, I've gone ahead and replaced the 2 faulty capacitors. Thankfully, I had 2 replacements on hand. Not all repairs tend to be this simple, but sometimes you get lucky. But as for this TV, I'm just going to dust it off, put everything back together, and hope it still works. Today, they simply don't make things like they used to. I see a lot of TVs on the side of the road, and every once in a while I will bring one home just to plug it in and see if anything's wrong with it that I could fix. And a lot of the time, it comes down to a component failure that I just can't replace. Usually it's the LCD screen. Now I know these TVs are more complex than they used to be, and the price of them has seemingly never been lower. However, it is a shame that a lot of them are dying supposedly prematurely. And maybe that's just why I like trying to keep these things out of the landfill. First off, it's better for the environment, and if something's not broke, why fix it? I mean, sure, you can get a nicer set that maybe is a bit thinner and runs on a little bit less electricity, but also, this TV set has a complement of ports on the back. My goodness, you have component, composite, HDMI, VGA, and a RF coaxial input for antenna or cable systems. Most budget TVs today, and even some of the higher end ones, don't even have any analog inputs or anything else to hook up an antenna to. You just have a few HDMI ports. So for somebody who needs to plug something into an old connection, these old TVs do the trick. So let's power it on and see if it's happier. You can see that logo is turning on, so we got some power here. And there we go. It is trying to get a signal. Of course, it was set for the antenna, which was previously plugged in at my aunt's place, but how about that? A nice clear picture. We have no problems with it, and I could go to the menu and everything, and it reacts as it should. Next up, we have to install this TV back at my aunt's house so she can continue watching her baseball games.
Yay, it works! I'm so happy. Thanks to Steve.
There we go. I'm super happy I was able to fix this up, and hopefully it won't give us any trouble down the road. So it just goes to show you, just because something suddenly stops working, you might be able to save it. There are great resources online like the tinkerdifferent.com website and community, and plenty of places where you could find schematics, pinouts, and other tricks that have worked for other folks. Unfortunately, there's a lot of crummy videos out there that just show you still images with some weird voiceover that doesn't really tell you how to fix anything. But hopefully some people will put in the effort to show you actually how to fix some of these issues. And in this case, it was just a pair of silly old capacitors. But that's about it for now. Let me know down below if you have ever fixed something or attempted to fix something. And please be sure to like the video, leave a comment down below, and subscribe to the channel. And I'll catch you right here next time on Mac 84.